Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things, because life should be fun. And we all know that life isn't always fun. So imagine having a fun room and a whole fun house to come home to every evening after a day at work. Maybe it's a pool table or card table so you can welcome in visitors. Maybe it's home theater seats so you and your family can enjoy movies or sports. Games and Things, that's the crew to turn to. OurGameRoom.com to learn more. All right. No one, as I said, no one has any idea what's coming. There are rumors on Twitter that Arizona is leaning toward going. That's certainly the Big 12's number one option, is to get Arizona. If Arizona does go, do they take Arizona State and Utah with them? Does everybody leave the Pac-12 and say, we want in? Who knows? But let me ask you guys. There's been talk of the Big 12 and landing those schools, talk of the Pac-12 trying to get San Diego State and SMU, talk of the Big 10 going after Oregon, Washington, maybe even Cal and Stanford, talk of Oregon going independent, talk of the ACC trying to expand. Will West, what do you think happens next? What's the next move?
The next move is the Four Corners. Arizona first, and then the other Four Corners schools, Arizona State, Utah, join the Big 12. I think that's the next place that we go. If you're in the Pac-12 right now and you aren't in Oregon or Washington where you have a chance to get into the Big 10, I think you have to jump to the Big 12 as quickly as possible. Agreed.
I think I would be on the phone with Brett Yormark today saying, you got room for me?
Yep.
Ryan, what's the next thing that happens?
I think Will's exactly right. I think those schools, they have to worry about what are Oregon and Washington doing, and are we going to get left behind? We don't want to be the last one standing in the Pac-12, so you've got to get out now while you still can. I think that's where things are headed next.
You don't want to be in the boat of leftovers with Oregon State and Washington State, who are going to get screwed in all this. What happens next?
Yeah, I know you prefer when we all have different answers, but that's fine. It's not happening here.
Sometimes the viewers need to hear.
It's that move, and maybe the biggest reason is the absolute lack of confidence that they have to have in their leadership. So you got to make your move for what's best for you, knowing that this TV deal has been talked about forever, and it's not happening, and you're not in a position to get a good TV deal, so you got to go get the money and the stability, and that's in the Big 12.
So I will say that that is all right and that all correct, and that leads to maybe more of a snowball effect for college football to start moving in the direction it will move in the next 2 or 3 to 5 years, combined with the NIL conversation, and I guess transfer portal is part of that's just more of a what are the rules. But college football has changed drastically in the last 3 years, and I think it's going to continue to do that. So this will move everybody from west east, at least those that matter the most. And that will create whatever college football, at least, and maybe college sports will be in the next decade.
Are we even having this conversation if Deion Sanders isn't Colorado's coach? Are they in a position to have the early success, feel good about themselves, be desirable for the Big 12, and then make that move that quickly?
Well, I think there are lots of those. There's also, if the other Eastern schools in the 1980s had listened to Joe Paterno and said, yeah, let's form a conference. He wanted a Big East type conference. And then they never wanted to do it. They wanted to be independent. So the Big Ten gets Penn State. Then all those schools scramble, and all this other expansion comes after Penn State. If the NCAA hadn't had an arbitrary, ridiculous rule that said to have a championship game, you got to have 12 teams and 2 divisions. What is the NCAA? Why was that even in a rule book? Who cares? And all your teams have to start with vowels. Well, it's just nonsense. If you didn't have that, then the SEC doesn't need to go get Arkansas and South Carolina. If Colorado doesn't have Deion, there's so many of these little twists to this thing. Will, you were going to throw something else?
I was just going to say, I think that because the reports were they desired to have Colorado, right? The Big 12 did because of the geographic footprint, Denver market, things like that. But I don't know that Colorado has that they have what it takes to make the aggressive move of moving to the Big 12 if Deion's not there, kind of setting culture a little bit.
Well, and you've got a coach who would prefer to recruit in Texas, and now you get back to the Big 12 where you can recruit in Texas, so that has to play some role. It is interesting. The one that stands out to me, there's also talk, 24/7's guy at Florida State, Chris Nee, he recently said that Florida State is seriously trying to get out of the ACC. They have a meeting. I think they have to announce they're leaving by August 15th. If they do that, the problem is the grant of rights. Somebody's got to figure out a way to break it. This is where the SEC is screwed. The next time they expand, it's going to be into the ACC territory, you would think. And because that grant of rights agreement goes through 2036, it kind of forces you, and because you signed a contract that was too long, it forces you to sit there and watch these other conferences make moves while you're just, okay, will the ACC fall apart? Fall apart, please.
And if it does,
I think that holds you back.
And again, the ESPN thing. Why
Yes.
would ESPN give you a ton of money for Clemson and Florida State to join your conference when they can get Clemson and Florida State for 50 cents on the dollar right now playing in the ACC?
Or is it, we're going to give you more to get them here, and now we don't have to pay anything for Wake Forest at all?
That's true.
Well, we're just going to have the SEC/ACC over here, and then what was the ACC, those dregs, we're not buying you at all. You can go to, CBSU or whatever their side network is.
Well, the advertising revenue may be different of those programs in the SEC versus the ACC too. So there's that give and take.
All right, we got to catch a break. When we come back, when it comes to Joe Milton's fall campaign, what's the most important stat for him and for UT? And we'll show you the final vote tally next. Come on back.